Hey everybody, welcome to Bill Sky, the Java guy. And I decided to start this playlist because I've had multiple students of mine who are moving into uh, into a four-year college or into a graduate program tell me that they really would like me to do a Java series because their college is using Java to teach them object-oriented programming. So Java's been around for a long time. A lot of people are like, ooh, Java. No, Java is a really great object-oriented language. In fact, Java is one of the first truly object-oriented programming languages that spans nearly all operating systems. In other words, you can install it on any operating systems. It's easy to understand. It's easy to program in once you get used to real object-oriented programming. Python is not very good object-oriented programming. It's a lot like C. There are some object-oriented features in Python and C++, but they're not as strict, they're not as real object-oriented as Java is. Java is almost not quite as bad, but it's almost like Smalltalk was in the late 70s, early 80s, and Smalltalk was really the absolute first object-oriented language. I still love coding in Smalltalk, but it is a much older language, and it really doesn't have the ability to do what Java and other object-oriented programming languages do. Java was originally developed by a company called Sun Microsystems. They have since gone the way of the dinosaur. It was developed from the ground up as an object-oriented programming language. I'll have people ask me, well, is it still really relevant? Yes, there's trillions of lines of code have been written in Java, and so and also colleges and universities, as I mentioned earlier, will use it a lot to teach object-oriented concepts because it is such a strict object-oriented language, and it really does allow you to learn everything you need to learn about object-oriented programming languages. One thing I did want to mention in this overview, we're going to be doing installation very soon here, but one thing I did want to mention is that Java has nothing to do with JavaScript. JavaScript is a dynamic web page language that is actually implemented inside or executed from your web browser. It is not that. Java is a full-blown independent language that you can run from the command line. You can even run it from IDEs or GUIs. I'm going to pretty much stick with command line usage of Java just because it's a really good way of learning a language. It's kind of like learning how to do math as opposed to learning how to use a calculator. So we're going to be doing that. But again, Java is a standalone language. So there are really two parts to the Java product. There's the Java runtime environment called the JRE. This is the actual Java interpreter, and it must be installed on any computer. Just like Python, just like .NET, something that has to be installed. Now, if you don't know what an interpreter is, an interpreter takes your program code one line at a time and executes it. It takes it, kind of compiles it, and converts it into machine code, and then does it at runtime. Where a compiled language, the program that you write is actually all prepared into machine code before runtime. So when you run a program using an interpreted language, it is slower. Python, Java, .NET. It can have some performance issues. But if you're not doing something that's really time sensitive, if you're not doing something like communicating with a network device or communicating with maybe a specialized storage device or a specialized sensor that's connected to your computer, Java is perfectly fine for that, and so is Python for that matter. Then the second part is the JDK, the Java Development Kit. And the Java Development Kit is the thing that actually allows you to write the code, or actually I should say compile the code. Now, I did mention a moment ago that Java is not compiled. It actually kind of is. It's compiled in what they call tokenized language. So when you compile it, and we're going to do that in the second video here in this playlist, but when you compile a program in Java, it takes your source code, it converts it to tokens, and puts it in a .class file, and then that's run through the interpreter. So really, that's what the JDK does. It allows you to compile that code. So let's just jump right into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a demonstration of how to install it on Linux, and then we're going to do a demonstration of how to install it on Windows, and then I hope to do a demonstration on installing it on a Mac. So let's get going. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install it on Linux. Now, Linux is really, really simple, and I'm going to put these statements in the description of this video. I'm not going to do every different type of Linux. There's really 3 types of Linux. There are the APT Linuxes like Debian and Ubuntu and Mint. There is the RPM Linuxes like Red Hat and Alma. And there's also a Pacman Linux. And those are the commands that you use to install things. So you can also do this on Windows Subsystem for Linux, but we're going to do it on Windows, but I want to do it on Linux first. So it's actually pretty simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to load up a terminal in Linux. I'm just going to say sudo apt update. And actually what this is doing is it's updating my software catalog on my Linux. On Red Hat you would do sudo dnf update. So before I do that though, before I actually do any kind of installation, I'm going to just type in java -- version and see if I have Java installed. And it says no, you don't have a Java installed, but it shows me all kinds of versions of Java that I can install. Java is the interpreter. I'm going to say Java C, and that's the Java compiler. And this version of Mint Linux, an APT, really goes through and looks to see what's out there. So what I want to do first is I want to see which version of Java I want to install. Now this is going to be the same for every operating system I'm going to show in this video. The commands aren't going to be the same, but the topic of which version of Java to select, and you've got a whole host of options. Java 8 is an older version of Java, but it's very, very stable. Java 11 is the same way. I'm kind of going to lean towards Java 21. Now, you might wonder why are there so many different versions of Java, and that's because the language is enhanced. You can't always recompile all of your Java classes on the newest Java, and also a lot of individuals, a lot of companies don't like to update their software that often, and you don't want to necessarily modify your application to use the newest when you've got customers that don't use the newest Java, and you don't really want to force them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to see what Java I want to install. So I'm going to say sudo apt search open, and I'm going to say grep JDK. Now what that means is that means I want to search for anything, any application in the apt repository that has the word open in it, and then I want to limit that to only those things that have JDK, Java Development Kit. And you see a whole bunch of them here. And so what I want to do is I want to install this JRE headless. I'm going to do the 21, and then there's also a JDK, I believe. Yeah, here's the JDK headless. And those are the ones that you really want to install. So I'm going to say sudo apt install open JDK -21. Actually, what is the actual command? Let's install the Java runtime environment first. And I'm going to go ahead and let that install. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to immediately install the JDK. So this is installing the interpreter. Everybody that runs a Java program needs to have that installed. And then now I'm going to install the development kit. Now there's another one called Java Docs. Let's see, and that's the documentation for Java. So I could do a search for open doc, and there's a whole bunch here. Here it is right here. So open JDK 21 doc. So I want to install that one. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to say sudo apt install. -y means don't prompt me for the yes or no. Just go ahead and do it. And I'm going to install the docs as well. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to verify that you've got it installed, and it's very, very simple to do that. As soon as this is done, I'm going to show you those two commands, but they're very simple. One of them is Java -- version, another one is Java C -- version. So I'm going to clear the terminal, and I'm going to say Java version. You can see I have the Open JDK 2.1, and I'm going to say Java C version, and it's the Java C 21.0.5. So there you go. So I've got the Java, which is the runtime. So anytime you run a program in Java, you start it with the word Java, space, and then the class that you're going to be executing. Every time you want to compile a Java source file, you say javac space and then the name of the .java file. And there you go. That's all you need on Linux. Pretty cool that that's all it took. Okay, so let's go ahead now and install Java on Windows. And I'm using Windows 11, I believe here. Yes, Windows 11. And now on Windows 11 or on any version of Windows, it's not as easy to install Java on this operating system as it is on Linux. So there's a little bit more involved. So let's just jump right into it. So I'm going to go ahead and just start up my browser, and I'm actually going to go and what I could do is I could type the entire URL in, but I'm going to go ahead and search on it. I'm not sure why the icon is moving around here. So there we go. So all right. Now there's multiple locations where you can download Java. I always like to download it off of the Oracle website. So I'm just going to say download Oracle Java. And that should take me to Java Technologies download. So I'm going to click on that. Now I don't like installing the most recent version of Java just because it's not as stable as older versions. So I'm going to click on the Java archive here. And in fact, it even said on that previous screen that Java 21 is probably the most stable. So I'm going to go ahead over here and click on Java Standard Edition 21. And then I'm going to drop down. I'm going to look for the Windows x64 MSI installer. And let that go ahead and download. Now while that's downloading, I'm going to go ahead and open up my downloads folder. Now before I actually do the installation, I'm going to go down here to my search bar and I'm going to type in cmd, and that's the command prompt, and I'm just going to type in Java -- version. And I'm just verifying that I don't have Java installed, and it's not installed. I'm going to try javac -- version, and it's not installed. So that's awesome. So I'm starting from scratch here. Okay. So let's go ahead and double click on the JDK 21.0.4. Now you could have downloaded this, just the JRE, but Java Runtime Environment, but if you do that, you're not going to be able to write your own code. So the JDK that comes off of Oracle's website, this is actually includes the Java Runtime Environment, so installs everything. It's actually a really nice install package. So I'm just going to click Next on everything. I'm not going to change anything, just leave the defaults. And then once the installation is completed, it only takes a minute or so. It depends upon the speed of your computer. Then you can delete the installation program. I actually like to keep it around just in case I need to reinstall later on. You can click on Next Steps, but I'm just going to click Close here. Okay. So let's go back down to the search bar. I'm going to type cmd. I'm going to type Java -- version. All right, we have the Java 21 runtime installed. I'm going to say javac. And there's my Java compiler. That's installed too. All right, that's as simple as it is. About the same as it is in Linux, except you're doing a little bit more GUI installation here. Let's jump into Mac. Okay, last install in this video, and what we're going to do is we're going to install Java on my Macintosh. Now I'm using the newest version of Mac OS. I don't remember what version this is. What version is this? The process is about the same. So yeah, it's Sequoia. So it's the newest one, 15.1.1, and I'm just going to go ahead and install it there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to my applications. So I'm going to bring up Finder first, and with Finder I'm going to go to Applications. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see a thing here called Utilities. I've got a bunch of stuff going on right now on this computer, so it's taking a little while. So let's go ahead and find Utilities. There it is right there. I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to open up Terminal. And I'm just going to type Java -- version. I can't find it. So let's do the same with javac. All right, cannot find it. So I'm going to go ahead and close that terminal, but I'm going to leave the applications folder open. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in download Oracle Java. This is a lot like on Windows. I'm going to click on that link. I'm going to go over to Java Archive, and I'm going to look for Java 21. There's Java SE21. This is just how we did it in Windows, except this time I'm going to click the Mac OS. Now there's an ARM version and there's an x64 version. Now if you're using ARM, if you're using an M1 to, I think it's an M4 chip at the time of this recording, you're going to want to download the DMG installer and do exactly the same thing I'm doing here on my Intel-based Mac. So I'm not going to do the compressed archive, I'm going to do the DMG installer. So I'm going to do the x64 because I'm running on a Mac Pro tower. I'm going to download that. And I'm going to download it to downloads, that's fine. And boy, look how fast that took. Okay, that was really quick. Okay, so I'm going to go over here to downloads. And here's my, well, I've got a number of them. Let's go to order it by, not by size, by date. There it is right there. Is that, nope, that's Sequoia. There it is right there. I'm going to double click on that. And what that's going to do is it's going to actually mount a little drive. You can see it right there. And within that drive is the installation package. So I'm going to go ahead and just double click on that. And I'm running on a 2-monitor system here, so I might be dragging some things around. I'm going to say continue, install for all users, continue, and just install. And it's going to ask me for my password. Let that finish installing. Click close. I'm going to keep it. I always like to keep my installation packages, and I'm going to right click on this little drive and say eject. Okay, so let's go back to applications, back to utilities, back to terminal. Now the reason I'm having to reopen the terminal instead of just using the one I had earlier is because when you install Java, it modifies some of the system path stuff so you can find it. I'm going to type Java version. Awesome, I have 21 installed, Java C version, and there we go. So we've got the Java compiler. Now if you just downloaded the JRE, when you type Java C, it's not going to find it. You have to make sure you download the JDK. All right, so that's our introduction to the Java programming language installation and setup on Linux, Windows, and Mac. Take a look at the video description and possibly notes about all of those different commands. I put them in there for you. And also, I think I put in there websites for you to get to as well. And the next videos are we're going to do our very first Java application. It's going to be a very, very simple little Hello World application. We might add a couple of other functions in there just to play around with it a little bit. But until then, see ya.